What's up, beautiful people? Today in this Jocz Productions video, we're taking a look at You Won't Believe What a Pilgrim Did to a Turkey. Plymouth explained. There are a lot of famous Americans. Of course, you learn about many in history textbooks by looking at your money. By the way, your money is racist. Check out my satirical video in the link below. You might even learn about famous Americans by looking at some mountains. There are also some infamous Americans. There is John C. Calhoun, who referred to slavery as a positive good. His portrait still hanging in the halls of Congress while morons storm the Capitol. There is even this racist lady who, like a bunch of other people, tried to prevent the Little Rock Nine from going to school. There are also people in history who you should know about but probably don't. One such person is Thomas Granger. He was guilty of something called buggery. Buggery at the time was defined as an unnatural sexual act against the will of God and man. Now, before I give you the deets about what he did, the buggery involved a... Tom was one of the first individuals to be put to death in the Plymouth colony, and he is the first known juvenile to be sentenced to death in what is today the United States. Sadly, even today, teenagers are still messing around over in Plymouth. The story you probably heard in school about the New England region goes something like this. The Pilgrims, a persecuted group in England, set sail on the Mayflower seeking religious freedom. This, of course, already is not entirely accurate because these separatists, who didn't even call themselves Pilgrims, already had religious freedom in Holland. The separatists had been living in exile in Holland for 10 years prior to their journey to North America. The real reason they made the trek was the fact that in Holland they were stuck making terrible wages in the textile industry. Yes, they had religious freedom in the Netherlands, but they were living in poverty. Being broke ain't no joke. On the Mayflower, they set up one of the first agreements for self-government in the New World, and when they got to Plymouth, they didn't exactly have the easiest of times. They did get somewhat lucky in that the settlers took over a spot that was basically a former Native American settlement. The area had cleared out space for agricultural fields, but the Native American community that once lived there was wiped out from diseases brought in by shipwrecked French explorers. Like many of the colonies, the first group of pilgrims struggled. Only around 50 of the original 102 passengers survived the first winter. Luckily for the colonists, a local Native American named Squanto helped the Pilgrims. Squanto served as a translator which helped with diplomacy between the Plymouth settlement and neighboring tribes and also helped facilitate trade. Squanto showed the colonists spots to fish and how to plant corn. Now, what they probably didn't tell you in school was how he learned to speak English. Squanto was captured by English explorers in 1614, sold into slavery in Spain. Eventually, he ended up in England, learned English while in England for several years, and eventually got his freedom. When Squanto came back to the New England region in 1619, his entire tribe was dead from smallpox. Both the Plymouth colony and all of us in the United States are lucky the Plymouth colonists became temporary BFFs with the local Native American tribe. The Plymouth colony is lucky because there would have been a heck of a lot more colonists dead if they didn't get the help, and we are lucky because we wouldn't have the first Thanksgiving if it wasn't for this historical reality. By the time of the first Thanksgiving in 1621, about half of the original Pilgrims had died. The first Thanksgiving was a 3-day gathering which included members of the Wampanoag tribe and the colonists who weren't dead. They were not only thankful for the abundance of food, but also grateful to be alive. Now, a lot of what you know about the first Thanksgiving is probably wrong. There is no evidence they ate turkey, and they definitely didn't have any pie. Wild turkey were in the area, but there's no evidence they were served at this feast. The Wampanoag did bring 5 deer for dinner, and contrary to popular depictions, there were about 90 native people in attendance, almost double the number of pilgrims by some accounts. Not to mention, in the year 1636, just 15 years after the first Thanksgiving, the colonists of the New England region would fight a brutal war against the local Pequot tribe. But to be fair, whose family Thanksgiving meal doesn't end in some type of dramatic fight or violence, especially when your racist uncle starts talking politics. Nevertheless, the temporary partnership and celebration between the Pilgrims and local Native Americans is why we now eat, on average, like 50,000 calories in one day on Thanksgiving. Now, the New England region continued to expand when in the late 1620s, the Puritans, led by Jonathan Winthrop, established the Massachusetts Bay Colony. By the 1640s, the entire New England region was doing much better in the people not dying department. Generally speaking, the New England colonies developed around small towns with family farms. Strict Puritan social customs and laws kept the colony focused on its religious mission. But this close-knit community was changing. Some Some colonists, very few, were straying from the original mission of the colony: drunkenness, premarital sex, and people like Thomas Granger were causing concern. Unfortunately, we do not know what our boy Tommy looked like. Throughout this presentation, I will be using a variety of possible approximations of young Tommy Granger. Granger was a teen servant, either 16 or 17 years old in Plymouth. Being a servant meant he was near the bottom of New England colonial society, not exactly attracting the ladies in town. While we do not know what he looked like, we do know this. One day, while Thomas was partaking, in the words of William Bradford, lewd practice towards the mare, somebody caught him.
Ew, David.
Governor William Bradford, the guy who wrote the most definitive primary source about the Plymouth colony and its history, wrote about the incident in Of Plymouth Plantation. His book is the main source for much of what is known about the Pilgrims. At first, Thomas Granger pulled the shaggy defense and denied the charges. It wasn't me. But upon questioning, and the fact he was caught in the act, Tommy Boy admitted to not only making whoopee to the horse on the regular, but also got down with a bunch of other farm animals. Court records indicate he also admitted that in addition to the mare, Loverboy Thomas also was involved with a cow, 2 goats, 5 different sheep, 2 calves, and a freaking turkey. Now, I am not sure what inspired young hormone-filled Thomas. Maybe he saw an ankle that drove him crazy with desire. But in the end, Thomas Granger was put to death for having sexy time with not only a turkey, but also a number of different animals. The official court ruling was death by hanging until he was dead. You might recall that there was no supermarkets back in the day, so logic would indicate that the animals, victims, were then eaten, but not the case. Remember, the New England colonies were super religious. Much of their laws were from the Bible, intent on enforcing Leviticus 20:15, which said, "And if a man lie with a beast, he shall be put to death, and ye shall slay the beast." The animals involved were slaughtered right in front of Thomas and were buried since they had been defiled. Now I bet you are waiting for the moment that this video was going to have some bigger meaning, that this history inspired animal rights, that this would turn into an epic love story, or that Mr. Granger was wrongly accused. But nope, this is just a video about bestiality in the Plymouth colonies. So the next time you have Thanksgiving dinner with your extended family and you run out of things to talk about, let them know no turkey was served at Thanksgiving, and ask if anybody has ever heard of Thomas Granger. And also let them know he did something with a turkey, a cow, 2 goats, 5 different sheep, and 2 baby cows 21 years after the first Thanksgiving. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out all the other videos, leave a comment, and subscribe. Until next time, have a beautiful day. Peace.